Sofrito de Puerto Rico. Yeah, sofrito de Puerto Rico. And I do make one of the best ones, by the way. So what I'm going to do is very simple. I'm going to invest about a minute talking about the ingredients, because that's very critical. Then I'm going to show you how I make it. And finally, I'm going to have a short explanation on what not to use. And that's very critical because even people from Puerto Rico use some ingredients that, in my opinion, have some negative impact in the flavor as time's going on. So go nowhere because we're going to create. So let's talk about the ingredients, and this is a very important portion of the video. And once again, at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you what ingredients not to use. And the ones I'm not going to use and I never use are not here. But let's focus for now the ones that you need. You're going to need cilantro. And I have what some people call bunches. So I have 3 bunches of cilantro. I did buy a couple more just in case. But for now, I'm going to focus on those 3. I have culantro. Culantro, in Puerto Rico, culantro is pretty easy to find. Here in Virginia, where I reside, it's not that easy, but I got lucky. And it's a kind of square leaf. It's very flavorful. But if you cannot find culantro, don't worry. Just add another bunch of cilantro. That's what you have to do. I have oregano. Now, some people like to use the dry oregano, the ones that they sell in bags already. I don't. I like my stuff fresh. More work because I had to take some of the leaf out, but that's fine. A generous amount of garlic. I have enough to fill this thing, and I do have another container with garlic that I might not using too. Red bell pepper, only need 1. Green bell pepper, also only need 1. You're going to need a few mini sweet peppers. The one in Puerto Rico, they look different. They're kind of round and nice. This one, they taste the same. I cannot find the other ones, so I had to work with what I have. And by the way, you don't put any hot stuff in here. My stuff is sweet and nice. This is sofrito from Puerto Rico, and I do make one of the best, by the way, if I may say that. So if you listen, you do be able to do that. And I have 4 onions. I'm going to use some cumin, or comino, like we call it, powder. Some people use it, some people don't. The way I see it, every time I eat some rice, like for example, the Cuban rice that they use cumin to cook, what we call, that kind of rice, we call it moros and cristianos, which in essence is rice with black beans cooked together, like together. And they add cumin, and that is so rico, like we say in Puerto Rico, riquísimo. It tastes so good that I might as well add it here. And I'm going to use a little bit of black pepper. Now, I do have to peel. I already peeled some of the garlic this morning, but I do have to peel the peppers, take the seed out, and I have to cut the onions. And I'm not going to put you through all that. So I'd rather invest my time talking about the ingredients instead of showing you how to cut things. Oh, and by the way, make sure you wash this stuff too. You wanted to wash it with water, have it clean or whatever. So I'll be back. This food processor, I have it for almost 30 years. So I've done a lot of sofrito. I have prepared a lot of sofrito here. So typically what I do first, I try to put the onions and garlic first because I want my stuff to get some traction. I have this old fellow here. Put some of the pepper and things like that. If I start with the culantro, cilantro, it's not going to get the traction I want when I start spinning the processor. Once you get the traction, then you can start putting the cilantro and the culantro. And after that, it doesn't matter the order as long as you get the ingredients somewhat mixed. Now, when it comes to the cumin, the powder cumin, or comino, like we say in Spanish, and when it comes to the pepper, you can put it at least once. It doesn't have to. You don't have to split it up into sessions. And I call them sessions because with the amount of ingredients that I had to do this process twice. You might end up doing it 3 times. See how it's spinning, how the green looks? That means that he got the correct traction, and you see that I started putting the peppers, and I kind of mixed the order a little bit. I put some garlic. I continue putting some of the cilantro, and I'm holding the thing because, as I stated, is old, and I want to make sure that it stays in place. Once I finish the first session of first batch, I put it in a strainer because for this particular one, I want to strain the liquid, and I want to show you. You don't have to, but I'm doing it for this in this case because I want to show it to you. Now I had to do another batch because I have a lot of ingredients left, and I made sure that I have onions left, and I have cilantro and culantro because I want to mix everything well. And when I did that, and I went to the second batch, I mixed it with this batch to make sure that both become one batch. You want them combined because you want all the flavors. Like for example, in the second batch, I did put the cumin. I didn't put in the first one. But because I combined both and I mixed them well, I have one batch with everything there, and you saw the liquid there. Now it's time to start packaging the stuff so you can freeze them. My last batch I prepared back in June or July of last year. We're in March right now. I still have some, and they're still tasting perfectly. And I like it dry, because when you're cooking, you're using olive oil and other things, and it helps with the texture and the flavor. Let me cover this one. Well, I decided not to throw the liquid away, so I'm going to use, I just going to put some here. I have to do a little towel because I'm going to make a big mess. And now I use them as cubes as needed. There it is. I fill out all the way up, I don't care. See how easy it is? Put this in the freezer immediately. And then when you need them, you just get a cube or two. Actually, 1 cube is enough for flavor. So let me show you how things will look month later. This one I prepared back in June or July, put in the freezer and froze it until I need it, and now I'm using it for cooking and stuff. And the color and texture eventually is going to change because between when you freeze things, liquid will develop because of the little eyes or whatever. It's going to look like this eventually. Some of them might keep their green color, but very likely it's not going to be the case. But it smells delicious. I mean, wow. And this one will too. And I can still use this one now if I wanted to, but I'm sticking with this one for now. So now that you know how to make it, what ingredients you have to avoid and why? Number 1, tomatoes. And here's the reason why. If you want to make a sofrito that's tomato based, go watch my video about the sofrito that's made in Spain. That's tomato base, and when you make that, you don't use any more like tomato sauce or anything because you already made it in that sofrito. The thing about tomatoes is that tomatoes have is acidic, is an acidic type of food. So if you have in your sofrito and then you are cooking, weeks later and you add tomato sauce or whatever, now your food become acidic. So avoid tomatoes. The second thing that you should avoid are liquids like oil. And this is when you're making your sofrito, like you saw earlier today. So avoid oil, vinegar, or water. The fact is, and that you're going to be freezing this. And when you freeze this, without adding those components, what is going to happen is when you move it from the freezer to the regular refrigerator, temperatures are going to lower and things are going to liquefy a little bit. Now, if you have oil and other liquids already, it's going to liquefy further and it's going to take some of the flavor from the spices away. You're going to be using oil later anyhow when you're cooking it, and if thin is vinegar, you're going to be using it later. So don't mess it up by adding those things. Now, if you were making this and you are going to use it immediately, then I can see why you're using the oil and maybe vinegar or water or whatever. But who goes to all this work to just use it immediately? When you do all this work that I showed you earlier, it's because you want to freeze the thing to save you time in the future. Third thing, salt. I don't put salt. Some people do, but and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But the reason I don't is because when you use salt, now you're putting yourself in the corner. Because what is happening now is you might be cooking something that have a somewhat high content of salt, and now you're limited because you already have salt in your thing. So now you're making your food saltier. So I don't do that. I rather have control about my salt because I use different type of salts too, like sea salt and regular salt. So I don't add it here. Now, if you're doing a rub or some other condiment stuff, that's different because you added it into your meat and it's part of the salt and stuff. But I don't do that here. And the fourth thing is hot stuff, like hot pepper. This is not a Mexican sofrito. This is a Puerto Rico sofrito. But it's nothing wrong if you want to make it spicy. I did one like that once. I did use hot peppers. And I limit myself in the kind of food I wanted to use it. I was using it for winter time stews. And frankly, it was pretty good, but I was the only one that could eat it. And the thing about hot stuff, when you put it in the refrigerator or, you store it away, whether it's freezing or not, that is going to get hotter and you might not be able to eat it. So don't use hot stuff because you can control the heat. The heat meaning how hot something tastes, on your own by using a different type of ingredient. Whatever. You just pique, how we call in Puerto Rico hot sauce, the homemade one, which someday I'm going to show you how to make. So those are the four things I avoid: tomatoes, any liquids, salt, and hot spices. Now, you can use those ingredients after you're cooking, while you're cooking, but not to prepare the sofrito. Smells good. Mwah. I had to kiss it because it smells so good. It's saving me time though. So I hope you like the video. Talk to you later. So, sofrito de Puerto Rico. Ain't that pretty?